Steven is gone for 9 days. He headed out to Tikchik to help close down the lodge for winter. I've never been alone in our off-grid cabin before, so this is a new experience for me. But wait, that's definitely not true. I'm not alone. I have this little boy with me, and he's just in there kicking around. It is the most wild experience I've ever had. There have been a few hiccups along the way. The generator kept acting up on me, and then the four-wheeler wouldn't start. I can fend for myself for a few days out here, but Steven is definitely my hero, and I do not take his presence for granted. It's really annoying. So it's on, but this isn't lighting up. Neutral's not lighting up. I can't remember if I put it in neutral or not when I turned it off. I don't think I did.
Plug it on one side and the clamps on it. Should be like right there.
There's just a lot of stuff on here. It's like your fishing gear. Okay, red is positive.
Yep.
And black is negative. Is that okay? Ah!
Yeah, as long as it stays on there.
Like that? It doesn't have to be on this.
No, that's good.
Okay. Well, I charged the battery, so I'm going to hook it back up. Hopefully that's the reason why the four-wheeler wasn't starting. So, we'll see. I know this might look a little ominous, me carrying a shotgun, but in our home, guns are tools, not weapons. We have a mama bear with her cubs that have been hanging around close proximity. Our neighbor's trail cam has picked her up many times, and a cub was even scoping out my car. With Steve being gone, it's been a lot quieter here, so I like to run the four-wheeler just to remind the bears that there's still human activity around. And since the salmon aren't running anymore, Mama's gonna be looking for food elsewhere to fatten up for winter. In remote areas like this, bears are usually more timid around humans compared to city bears, who get way too comfortable. So for me, running the four-wheeler is just my way of telling the boogeyman to stay away and to let Mama Bear know that this place is still occupied. A few weeks ago, Steve helped me harvest high bush cranberries. I'm excited to try a homemade recipe for cough syrup. I think it's so fascinating how nature provides right when you need it. Cold and flu season is coming up, and we are just surrounded by vitamin C. It's details like this that make it undeniable to me that the world was purposefully designed this way. In this recipe, I added clove because it is a natural pain reliever. The natural compound in clove is called eugenol, which helps with inflammation and pain relief. So it should help with sore throats, and it can also break up phlegm and mucus. I added a little sugar to help break up the bite of the cranberry, but next time I would definitely use honey for its antimicrobial properties. I just don't have any right now. This recipe ended up being more of a juice than a syrup, but its effectiveness will still be the same. It's a highly concentrated vitamin C powerhouse, and it's much more delicious than having to choke down NyQuil.
concerns her, it concerns me.
The railroad's taking over my land under eminent domain.
The railroad?
Domain. Ain't that where somebody bribes the state legislature to take away some poor folks' land?
I won't dignify that with an answer.
I ain't asking for no dignification.
Damn
Find
railroad.
it in.
Since Steve left for Tikchik Narrows Lodge, it's got me going down memory lane, and I realized we've never actually told the story of how we met. Personally, I think it's a story straight out of a romance novel. And who knows, maybe someday we'll show this to our son so he could learn about how his mom and dad's story began. Tikchik Narrows Lodge is located out in Bristol Bay, and the only way to get there is by bush plane. It's about as remote as it gets. Stephen had been working there as a fishing guide for about 9 years, and that lodge became a huge part of his life. It was the summer of 2022 when I had decided that I wanted to work and experience the great state of Alaska. I flew up that May, and the very first moment I stepped off of the beaver plane at the lodge is when I met Stephen. He helped carry my luggage to my room, and I was instantly caught off guard by his demeanor, his politeness, because honestly, I had been expecting Alaskan men to be, a little rough around the edges. My job at the lodge was hospitality. Along with the other girls, I cleaned rooms and served all the meals. Stephen and I instantly had this connection, and we started hanging out quite often. But then one day he told me he was leaving for out camp, and I had absolutely no idea what that meant. He explained that he actually lives in a tent on the river about an hour's flight away for the entire summer. I was heartbroken. Just as we were really starting to get to know each other and having this spark, he was leaving. I couldn't help but feel really sad about that. The way the lodge works, guests come and stay for a week, and every single day they get flown out to different out camps so they could fish with different guides, catch different species of fish, and really experience everything that the area has to offer. Every day when the guests fly out, they are sent off with a lunch box that has their lunch as well as lunch for the fishing guides so they can all eat while they're on the water. To give you a sense of how remote Tikchik really is, the entire lodge runs off of generator and diesel, and at that time the lodge only had dial-up internet service, which basically meant there was no phone service at all. You couldn't make a phone call, there was no solid way to communicate with the outside world other than landline, and even that was spotty. Starlink was not common yet, so the only way that Steve and I could communicate was by sending letters to each other. We would tuck them into the lunch boxes that went back and forth on the planes. Sometimes he would send me back a bouquet of wildflowers that he had picked. It was just so pure and sweet. Writing these letters to each other is how we really got to know one another and how we fell in love. It was all so honest and simple and pure, just something that I never expected to find in today's modern world. Eventually, Steve was back at the lodge for the rest of summer, and he took me to some really incredible places. Living on a remote island in Alaska taught us a lot about each other, our work ethic, our mental state, how we handle pressure. Of course, it was also scary since I'm from California and Steve lives in Alaska. Opening our hearts fully felt super risky, and we didn't know what the future would hold.
Watch those teeth.
It's huge. So long. Steve took me on a grand tour of Alaska, and I completely fell in love with the state. After that trip, I brought Steve home to meet my family, especially my dad. It was important for me that the two of them met.
A tree hugger.
Suffice to say, I knew Steve would never move to California, and I knew that he would never ask me to move to Alaska either. He's far too much of a gentleman to ask me to move thousands of miles away from my family, who I love so dearly. But deep down, I knew I could not live my life without this man. So one day I told him, I said, "You know what? I'm moving to Alaska." He didn't believe me at first, but I did. I sold everything, I packed up, and then we began our journey up north together. And now, here we are today, married with a baby boy on the way. It's funny how life works out that way.
We did it, baby! We did it!
Steven is coming home today, so I'm baking him a treat, and I figured I would show you how we mill our own flour at home. This is wheat berry. When you grind your own wheat berries at home, you are getting the whole grain, the bran, and the germ, which are the parts that make wheat so nutritious. Most store-bought flour has been refined with the bran and germ stripped out, and it's often bleached. Because of that process, most of the nutritional value gets stripped out, but when you mill your own, you get fresh flour that has vitamin E and B that usually gets removed. Plus, you get excellent fiber, which is really good for your digestion and gut health, and also helps keep blood sugar stable. Today I'm baking Steve an apple crisp. I hate to throw things away that have good use. There's no sense in paying a bunch of money for apple cider vinegar at the store when it can easily be made with the scraps from these apples. Everything gets put to use. I am adding sugar to these apple scraps because apples naturally have wild yeast on their skins. The sugar gives them extra food to get the fermentation process started. I'm also adding filtered water. During the fermentation, the bacteria will first turn the sugars into alcohol over the course of about 3 to 4 weeks. At that stage, you would have hard apple cider, but if you let it sit a little longer, it will eventually turn to apple cider vinegar. In the beginning stages, we're just going to cover this with a piece of fabric, tied off so flies don't get in, but still allowing it to breathe. I stir once a day, every day for about 2 weeks. While I was making my apple crisp recipe, I realized that I was out of brown sugar. So I wanted to show you really quickly that it's super simple to make your own. You just add a little bit of molasses to pure cane sugar, stir it up, and voila, you have homemade brown sugar. Another quick trick I like to do is make my own vanilla extract at home. Store-bought vanilla is often imitation, and here in Alaska it can be a little expensive. I like to buy real vanilla beans on Amazon, and I use them with a bottle of good quality vodka and let it sit in a dark cabinet over time, and just like that you have pure homemade vanilla extract. Heading to Anchorage to go pick up Steven. At this very moment, Steven is flying through Lake Clark Pass on the Beaver with our favorite pilot, Charlie. We should both be arriving in Anchorage around the same time. This is Lake Hood in Anchorage, Alaska. It is the world's busiest seaplane base. Alaska has thousands of remote communities, many of which are only accessible by plane. So Lake Hood acts as a central hub and staging ground for hundreds of flights every day in the summertime. For some people, this is how they go grocery shopping, and for others, a bush plane is basically the same as having a car.